presumably there's pressure on the actual content too.
Oh yes, and this was really what got my goat. I mean, I was very happy to have these suggestions as far as the guests were concerned. But when it came to the scripts, well, that was when I exploded. And the example which I've given is that in our 500th program, we have a spot in the program called detached lyrics. When you ask where do these lines come from a song, and you take away the music, you take away the context, and it's slightly difficult, but you know, we've done it lots of times. And the lines that I wanted to include were, in Bengal, to move at all is seldom, if ever, done. But mad dogs and Englishmen, and that was what I wanted to do. And then, you know, I would put it to the guest, we would sort it out, and then I would play Noel Coward singing the lines. The executive producer, having gone through my scripts and, you know, marked up all the various things that he didn't like, he said, no, you can't use that song because it reflects colonial attitudes.
But it does the reverse of that, doesn't it?
It does the reverse of that because it is poking fun at the colonial administrators or whoever, not at the natives. So that caused a big explosion on my part. Yeah. I said, this is ridiculous. This is, you know, straight out of the Black Lives Matter rule book, if you like, which is presumably why it came up. And I was persuaded. They said, oh, it's not a diktat, you know, it's not a diktat, we're not in. But we would rather you chose something else. Noel Coward said lots of interesting things and witty things. Can't you choose something else? So I gave in, and I substituted something not by Noel Coward, but another thing.
Did your audience pick up on this kind of thing? I mean, did you get sort of feedback from the audience saying, no?
Well, they would hardly know, you see, because they wouldn't know what had been left out.
Yes.
But since I have made my position known, I've had lots of emails from people saying, oh, thank goodness you said something. You know, Radio 4 has become so right on and all that they don't like it. And of course, I mean, I'm an old man, I'm 77, and a lot of Radio 4 listeners are, I think the average age is 56.
Is it really 56?
Something like that.
Right, okay.
And of course they are desperate to get younger listeners. I'm not terribly sure why, really, because if, you know, you are providing a wonderful service to people over 50, well, that's fine. They will die out and they will be replaced by these young people growing older who will find it more to their taste as they grow older. So that is that.
With you mentioned that you alluded to that you own the format. That actually, so you withdraw, that's it. The program goes.
Oh yes, the program's finished.
So, but in another situation, presumably, and you were a host for a long time, they could do something like, say, well, we need a new host or something, couldn't they?
Yeah, they could, but they can't do the program without me. So.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
But I noticed that thing. A number of other presenters, I mean, bigger names than me in TV and so on, are on the move at the moment. Andrew Marr, for example, said that he wanted to be able to speak in his own voice rather than through the BBC approved voice. And Adam Bolton of Sky News, I read that he's retiring or resigning or whatever, and he said, you know, in the media is as it is today. I won't get anywhere because of I'm the wrong gender, I'm the wrong ethnicity, I'm possibly the wrong, I don't know, whatever. So there is this sort of feeling around, I think, that other people are not too happy with the way that they are really told to do their jobs.
But also, I think one of the possible effects as well is that it's hard to measure this, but it's also maybe alienating people because the end result is very what they might call woke washed.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
I wondered. I mean, do you think you mentioned 20 years, but recently things to change. Has there been a fundamental change in the BBC in this regard?
I think there has. I mean, I've worked for the BBC for 55 years, something like that. And I started with the Granada Television in Manchester, and that was another matter. But the BBC that I worked for in news and current affairs, I was the presenter of the Today programme, the famous Today programme, back in the 1970s. And I also did hours and hours of very serious news and current affairs with BBC World Service. The people who, my editors and producers in those days, I would say were very balanced people. They cared about the things that happened, and were very even-handed. I think that's probably the word. I have a feeling that perhaps very recently, perhaps the last 10 years, a lot of people have gone into news and current affairs. I don't think we're talking about that particularly. People who are activists or were party pre. They had positions, and this affected their judgment, really, or their input into the editorial process. I think that has definitely changed, and it has led to this. So there must be people now in the BBC who are setting these rules.
Yes, I mean, I do think it does. It's media wide. I think that.
Yeah. Oh yes.
It's media wide.
Yes.
It's just that the reason that the BBC singled out maybe is because people pay for it. I suppose.
Yes.
I mean, that's the difference. Yeah. I also, one thing that struck me, we were talking about it here before you came in, was that there are general cultural changes that have happened that I would have thought do affect programs such as yours. So your program does require a fair amount of knowledge, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
And, you know, when you look at, for example, some of the names, you know, that you've had on, I mean, I've read Peter Ustinov, you know, Kenneth Williams, Peter Cook, Kingsley Amis, all of these people. I suppose a certain level of knowledge would be assumed, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That might have changed, might it not?
I think so. I mean, one of the big sort of changes on the guest front is the rise of the stand-up comedian.
Right.
Stand-up comedians now, I think this is perhaps goes back 20 years, I don't know. They are everywhere. Every TV panel game has stand-up comedians. That's their day job, but they also appear on all these panels, often on many panels, more than one. I mean, somebody like David Mitchell, for example, he's all never off. Yes. And I think that is okay, and I've gone along with this. I've said, yes, we can have such and such a stand-up comedian, provided they have something else. They have another string to their bow. You know, they might have written a novel, or they might have done something specific that we can talk about. But there have been some who haven't, and there are some who just don't really have the knowledge. And so that is certainly something that has changed.